Here's the story most people are too scared to say out loud. Meghan Markle's life looks perfect. Expensive clothes, private planes, huge mansion in Montecito, beautiful magazine photos. But when you look at the money, something weird happens. The numbers don't make sense because on paper, what she makes doesn't match how she lives. The Netflix deal is quiet. The Spotify deal is dead. The brand deals are all over the place, random and disappearing. But somehow, the expensive lifestyle keeps going. People close to her say that someone else is helping keep that dream going quietly, secretly, and very carefully. Behind closed doors, that phrase people keep saying is funding continuity. That's the nice way of saying someone's paying her bills and teshidaus, not because they're nice, but for connections. And that's where the story starts. Not with love or fame, but with money. Real money. Because once you take away the royal title and the headlines, what's left is a woman living like a billionaire without making billionaire money. And if you're paying attention, that mystery alone tells you more about Meghan Markle than any interview ever could. The crown gave her fame, but the money came from somewhere else. When Meghan first got into the royal world, she thought she was walking into crazy money. Castles, fancy carriages, and never-ending royal money. But what she found was totally different. Prince Harry's personal net worth isn't royal-level rich. It's comfortable, sure, but not the billion-dollar empire the world thinks it is. His money mainly comes from his dead mother's inheritance and small military pensions. The palaces, the jewels, the big houses, they all belong to the crown, not the man. According to palace insiders, Meghan figured this out really early. The golden ticket she thought she'd gotten wasn't a pile of money, but a complicated institution where she had almost no control. And Meghan, who'd spent her life building her own image, wasn't made for background roles. The fairy tales started to break. The appeal of royal duty got old. Because behind the palace walls, there was one core truth. Being royal didn't mean being rich. It meant being controlled. And Meghan Markle doesn't do controlled. Sources say that's when her thinking changed from princess to planner. If the palace couldn't give her financial freedom, she'd find it somewhere else. She didn't marry a prince because she loved the crown. She married a man she could turn into money. To understand where the rumors started, you have to go back not to Montecito, not to Netflix, but to the years before Prince Harry showed up. Back to the days when Meghan Markle was still hanging around the edges of power, quietly learning how that world worked. Because before there were deals and documentaries, there were patterns, trips, parties, flights where Ash showed up next to the very billionaires who'd later help her social climb. So, house wasn't just a club, it was a gate. And behind it stood Meghan Markle, the billionaire investor who would years later privately fly Meghan to exclusive events, the kind of circles where connections weren't made, they were bought. According to sources, this is where the first version of Meghan's network took shape, the one that existed off paper, away from headlines, and long before Harry ever became a lifeline. And that's where the real funding story starts. Not with royal money, but with private access. When people ask who funds Meghan Markle's lifestyle, that truth isn't in one account. It's in who she's connected herself to. Those early years at Soho House were her training ground. She wasn't just networking. She was studying power. Every dinner, every event, every introduction was a step toward the rooms where billionaires hung out in private. It was here she met people like Ron Burkle, a guide tied deeply to royal circles, including Prince Andrew's social circle. Burkle was more than a billionaire. He was a connector. His private jets, estates, and charity events became the invisible structure of Meghan's early social rise. Then there were the yacht trips. Queen-of-season trips across the Mediterranean where actresses, influencers, and investors all mixed into one scene. Meghan wasn't famous enough to be the main attraction, but she was always there. There beside there beside power, there beside the man who could fund her next move, and those connections didn't disappear. They grew. By the time she met Harry, Meghan had already mastered the art of looking invited, when in reality she was strategically placed. It wasn't royal wealth that built her comfort. It was success, and access is money. Once you understand how Meghan's early years were spent in those luxury circles, on those separate flights, behind those velvet ropes, the current rumors about who's funding her now stop feeling like crazy talk and start sounding like a pattern, because people don't just stumble into that world. They get sponsored into it. Every party at Soho House, every private retreat, every first-class flight, all came courtesy of someone powerful enough to cover the cost and quiet enough to never claim it publicly. And that's what makes the question of her modern Monet so complicated. When the Sussex brand doesn't work, when deals fall apart, when production companies go silent, how does the lifestyle stay the same? What keeps the jets flying, the retreats booked, the staff paid? Those answers don't lie in royal savings or Netflix sex. They go back to the pattern that started long before Montecito. A pattern of being close to wealth, not owning it. Sources claim that same network, the one that opened its doors to a young Meghan years ago, still hangs around in the background today. Quiet supporters, private invitations, selective visibility, the kind of funding that don't need a contract to exist. And that's why the whispers won't go away, because when you look close enough, the story of Meghan Markle's money isn't just about what she earned. It's about what she never stopped knowing. Publicly, Meghan Markle shows independence. The self-made Duchess turned media boss. But in the image, the math doesn't work. Her public projects, the Netflix series, the podcast, the lifestyle brand have failed. Deals fall through, projects stop, staff quietly leave. Yet, Thela Festal stays perfect. Private jets, Montecito estates, European vacations, designer wardrobes, a security budget that matches royals still on the payroll. That difference is what started whispers about the real source of funding. Because when a brand fails, but bills stay paid, the question changes from how she earns to who keeps paying. The illusion of independence, one source called it. Everything looks self-funded until you see the hand spin the curtain. Every empire has investors. Every image has a cost. And Meghan's life, from the yachts of the past to the estates of the present, has always been a show financed by hidden hands. It's not charity. It's strategy. Keeping her visible keeps doors open, keeps networks working, keeps old friendships valuable. She represents a bridge, Hollywood to royalty, activisto influence, and bridges like that don't fall apart easily. But the trade-off is silence. When your life has to depend on supporters, your freedom depends on their approval. You can't bite the hand that funds the brand. So, while the world debates whether Meghan is still profitable, the truth is simpler. Profitability isn't the point. Sustainability is. Her real success lies in never falling far enough to lose her seat at the table. And as long as that seat is paid for, the illusion survives. The curtain may close on deals, headlines may fade, but the quiet financing continues. Because in the world Meghan Markle built, the world shall learn from the billionaires of Sohousey, power isn't measured in titles or fame. It's measured in who keeps your name afloat when everyone else walks away.